Kosovo's assembly has passed a resolution preventing ethnic Serbs from using polling stations to cast their ballots for Serbia's referendum. Polish border guards have detained several people who were involved in smuggling migrants from the Polish-Belarusian border towards Western Europe.
Tennis star Novak Djokovic has lost his appeal against a visa cancellation order and is set to be deported from Australia.
Kosovo's parliament passed a resolution on Saturday blocking the opening of voting stations ahead of Serbia's referendum aimed to boost the independence of its judiciary. While ethnic Serbs in the territory may cast a ballot via mail or at a liaison office, Kosovo's assembly says Serbia is trying to instrumentalise and exploit Serb citizens in Kosovo. Kosovo's Prime Minister Albin Kurti says the opening of Serbian polling stations in the Republic of Kosovo violates the sovereignty and constitutional order and is contrary to our constitution. Police in Pristina say they blocked documentation sent from Serbia that would have allowed the ethnic Serb minority in Kosovo to take part in the ballot this weekend. Serbia has insisted that Kosovo remains part of its country. However, Kosovo declared independence following a 98-99 conflict that killed some 13,000 people. EU-mediated negotiations aimed at normalising relations have produced little progress. This comes as the US and the European Union have urged the Balkan neighbours to resolve their differences in order to move forward in their bids to join the EU. Polish border guards have detained several people smugglers accused of trafficking migrants from the Polish-Belarusian border towards Western Europe. The accused took €3,000 from each migrant. However, a representative for the Polish border guard says that Poland is rarely the final destination. Anna Michalska says, in many cases, the people who cross the border do not want to stay in Poland. 90% of them want to go to other countries, mostly to Western Europe. The alleged smugglers, or so-called couriers, are Tunisian, Georgian, Ukrainian, Syrian and Polish nationals. While a spokesman for the prosecutor's office says persons performing the function of cashiers in the group distributed a considerable amount for the group's criminal activity, €8,700,000. Only the couriers themselves received the amount of over €4,300,000. Hundreds of migrants have left the area while some have returned to Iraq, but many continue to live in camps. The West accused Belarus of artificially creating the crisis by promising an easy crossing into the EU. Belarus has denied the accusations and has instead criticised the European Union for not accepting the migrants.
Germany is tightening restrictions on bars and restaurants in a bid to tackle the surging Omicron. Access will be limited to people who are fully vaccinated or recovered and can produce a negative test. Those who received a booster shot will be exempt from the test requirements.
It's really important to follow the rules, get vaccinated. I got my third one. I think that's the only way really to get out from this pandemic situation, and we want back our freedom to go out and see people and see friends.
In Iceland, the stricter COVID-19 restrictions started this week and are expected to run until at least the 2nd of February. And premises that do not serve food will have to close completely again. Iceland is struggling with a record number of patients, putting pressure on the health system. Over in Portugal, people who have been assigned to work at polling stations in the upcoming general election began receiving their coronavirus booster shots.
It will take many hours and there will be hundreds of people. We touch cards and all that, so this is really important.
The government is still waiting on a decision from the Portuguese Attorney General on whether those voters in isolation or infected with the virus would be allowed to vote. Nearly 90% of the people have already received 2 doses, and more than 35 have received the 3rd dose of the COVID vaccine in Portugal.
Hundreds of people leave northern Honduras to embark on the first major migrant caravan of the year, intent on seeking a better life. The caravan set out from San Pedro Sula, escorted by Honduran police, in hopes of crossing safely into Guatemala. From there, the migrants aim to get to Mexico and finally to the United States.
Stricken fishing boats in New Zealand and Japan are testimony to the force of the tsunami wave that hit the Pacific on Saturday, but the extent of the damage on the island of Tonga remains unclear because of communication difficulties. The New Zealand embassy in Nuku'alofa has been a rare source of news.
Official damage assessments are not yet available. However, our High Commission in Tonga advised the tsunami has had a significant impact on the foreshore on the northern side of Nuku'alofa, with boats and large boulders washed ashore. Shops along the coast have been damaged and a significant clean-up will be needed.
Volcanic dust from the undersea eruption has reportedly polluted the water supply on Tonga, which was hit by waves of around 80 centimetres. The island's only internet connection runs underwater to Fiji and has been lost.
Tennis star Novak Djokovic expressed his disappointment after 3 Australian federal court judges upheld his visa cancellation. Djokovic's visa was cancelled by the Australian Immigration Minister Alex Hawke on public interest grounds because the athlete was not vaccinated against COVID-19. While rendering the verdict, the Chief Justice James Alsop said the court ruling was based on whether the minister's decision was irrational or legally unreasonable. While Hawke welcomed the decision, many Djokovic supporters were left devastated and disappointed.
Very sad. Novak not deserve this, like what I said. Novak coming here to play tennis. I can't understand what kind of threat Novak to this country.
Following the verdict, Djokovic was seen boarding a plane at Melbourne Airport. He also faces a possible 3-year ban on re-entering Australia. The Serbian president expressed his disappointment.
There was something else which was even worse. That was witches hunt organized against Novak Djokovic, and that guy, just not to forget that he won 9 times Australian Open title, and well, that was totally unnecessary.
Djokovic has won 9 Australian Open titles and a total of 20 Grand Slam singles trophies. With this verdict, the world number 1 has lost his chance to defend his Australian Open title.
Aviator Zara Rutherford is set to become the youngest woman to fly around the world solo and the youngest woman to circumnavigate the globe in a micro-light aircraft. Having departed Belgium 6 months ago, the teenager avoided California's devastating fires, withstood Siberia's freezing temperatures and circumvented North Korean airspace. The Belgian-British youth comes from a long line of pilots.
My granddad learned to fly. It was recreational. My dad learned to fly. It was also recreational. I learned to fly recreational. And Zara is this 4th pilot in the line.
My great-grandmother was the very first woman to get a pilot's license in South Africa. The very first one, which is a big thing. And my grandmother was in the Women's Auxiliary Air Force during the war. In fact, she was one of those ladies she had a above top secret security clearance. And she was one of the ladies pushing the aeroplanes around the big board of the south of Britain that you see occasionally in the film. She was one of those ladies.
In her single-seater Shark Aero high-performance ultralight aircraft, Zara's journey has taken her across Europe, the Americas and to the Far East. Fueled with her desire to motivate young women and girls around the world to pursue careers in aviation, her parents say they have been closely monitoring their daughter's expedition and were impressed by her resilience and ability to change course.
We're extremely proud. We're extremely proud, but not only of what she's done, because at every stage we were very aware that it was an attempt and that she might not succeed for whatever reason.
Yes, she's coming home, but not for very long, I don't think. She wants to study in the US, and she has these aspirations eventually, of course, to be an astronaut. So if you love something, set it free, give them wings. And I think we've done that. I think we can safely say that we've given her wings.
With just the final leg of her journey to go, the aspiring space cadet hopes to have 2 Guinness World Records under her belt by Monday.